lead up. We're going live Thursday afternoon, evening, depending where you are in America, where you are in the world. Maybe it's morning for you. Good Friday morning to you. In that case, NFL draft Q&A, a little bit more on the Deebo situation. I think I have it figured out, Croc. Not to worry out there, 49ers fans. Let's get into it right now. Locked On 49ers coming at you live.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker. Seeing the chat fill up already. Thanks everybody who's jumping on live with this, and I hope you have a nice weekend. If you're just driving to work, driving home from work on a Friday, listening to this episode of Locked On 49ers. Thanks everybody for making Locked On 49ers your first listen on the podcast, the Locked On Podcast Network. Every day. It's what we do here. Your team every day. Croc, this is our daily conversation about Deebo Samuel before we get into some prospects. And I know we'll see in the chat if some folks have some prospects we want to talk about, some other draft things. But Deebo is dominating the headlines for the 49ers. And I got to figure it out. Croc, do you want to hear what's going on? Because I got it.
Of course. Let's do it. I want to hear it.
So this is what's going on. Well, there's two possibilities. There's the A that is the main possibility, and then there's a B, which kind of ties into A. But basically, here's the deal. Deebo Samuel knows now's the time to cash in because he's coming off a great year. Like, it's going to be hard, even if he plays awesome, it's going to be hard to top what he did last year. And when you compare that to what could happen in a changing offense with a new quarterback and potential injury, now's the time to cash in. But Deebo Samuel's not a free agent. So what would a good agent try to do? Try to make Deebo into a free agent. And you know how you do that is you get the 49ers you ruffle enough feathers to get the 49ers to agree to allow you as the agent to seek a trade. And now guess what? You are a free agent because now you've got every team bidding and you can go see how much Deebo Samuel can make on the open market because you can talk to every single team and then you can see if they can line up enough draft capital to send to the 49ers to get Deebo paid somewhere. Or maybe you just say, hey, see, John Lynch, these guys are going to pay Deebo Samuel $27 million per year. So you're over here at $22.5 million. That is not enough. So this is just, look, and I think Deebo's allowed thing, and you could tell Deebo's uncomfortable with it, right? Because of his responses to a lot of this stuff. Yeah. He keeps shooting down everything. It's like, nope, it's not about money. I haven't been offered a contract even. It's not about he said he rebutted Schefter's report about it being where he wants to live. It's not that either. It's not I don't know. Tomorrow there'll be a report that he doesn't like wearing number 19, and then the day after that he's like, I don't like the weather, And then after that, like, I don't want to be called Deebo. I want to be called Tyshun, right? And it's not usage because he loves wide back. He was all about being a wide back for the 49ers.
Right.
It comes down to money, and it comes down to getting this deal done soon and trying to get a little bit of extra bit of that leverage. And I think the other part of it is potentially that I wonder if just a lack of the 49ers even throwing an offer out there, right? Is just like, let's get an offer going. Let's get this going. Because it sounds like the 49ers haven't jump-started talks, but the 49ers, as we've seen, have made their big signings with their pending free agents or players going into the last years of their contracts in the summertime. And the 49ers still haven't figured out a way to get Jimmy Garoppolo off of the roster. And that $25 million will be very helpful in paying, getting enough room under their salary cap to pay the signing bonus and everything for Deebo Samuel and everything they want to do there. So I think the 49ers are trying to be patient in this, and Deebo Samuel and his side of things are not patient. And I really think Deebo's agent, who also represents DK Metcalf and AJ Brown, I think they want to get Deebo's deal done first, which is why they're in a rush to do this thing so that they can go then to the Seahawks and to the Titans and ask for even more money for those other wide receivers. I feel like that's really what's going on here. And I know that the body of work would tell these agents that I think AJ Brown and DK Metcalf, even though Deebo had the better year last year, over the course of all 3 years put together, I think Brown and DK will end up making more. So that means they want Deebo's deal done first. And I would think the 49ers want Deebo's deal done before those others too, because if DK signs tomorrow, then now Deebo's going to be asking more than whatever he got.
So Tony Pauline has been reported, and I actually do a podcast with Tony Pauline. Shout out to my guy, Tony Pauline. But Tony Pauline, he came out and said the offer to Deebo Samuel or whatever the 49ers put on the table was $19 million per year. Do you think that's enough for Deebo to feel disrespected?
I think it could be. It depends when, because if this was in February before free agency, $19 million seems like a good starting point from where the 49ers should have been. After everything else that's happened in free agency and the trades and stuff, after the Christian Kirk deal, you can't go to 19 million anymore. The 49ers got to be up around 22 million. And there's been some reports that the 49ers are willing to go 21 to 24-ish $1 million. That should get it done. That should be where the market is for Deebo Samuel right now. So I don't think money is something they should be too far apart from. But Deebo Samuel, 2 days ago, from his own mouth in that Instagram live, said they haven't even gotten an offer. I wonder if that's where the disrespect is, that they just haven't gotten anything going yet. It feels like they're just trying to create enough for the 49ers to come with something strong right now, or try to get other teams involved to show the 49ers what a team would be willing to pay Deebo Samuel.
So listen, here we go. Multiple sources tell me that the Niners put a baseline contract offer on the table for Deebo Samuel. So a baseline contract offer, which averages just under $19 million per year. As first reported during the Draft Insider podcast with Trey Wingo back on April 12th, the same day Samuel scrubbed his social media account of all things 49ers. Also during this time was, the same time they had that meeting, remember Lynch and Shanahan met with him. And it wasn't until then that he got disgruntled. Most believe Samuel's ultimate contract will be in the range of 23 to 24 million per year. He likely won't make as much as AJ Brown, who could sign a renegotiated contract with Tennessee Titans sooner than later. You know where they messed up big time, right? None of these guys got drafted first round. If they went first round, you wouldn't have to worry about it as much. They got a fifth-year option.
That's true. Well, these guys shouldn't even have been there for the 49ers to take, because they should have been first round picks, because the 49ers, but then the 49ers might have ended up with N'Keal Harry or something like that.
Oh, they would have. Yeah, they would have.
So on the meeting with Shanahan, let's say, because they've shot down every reason why Deebo Samuel might want to be traded, quote unquote. And I don't think he necessarily wants to be traded. I think this is just the negotiation ploy, which I think the 49ers are going to end up with Deebo. Don't worry. That's what I think is going to end up happening, because,
I got to push back.
Because what are they going to get? They're not going to get the offer they need to move on from Deebo. Are the Jets really going to come with 10 and 38 and a next year top 50 pick or whatever? Like,
are you saying the 49ers don't want to do it, or Deebo Samuel's camp doesn't want to do it?
Oh, yeah. So basically the 49ers are going to be like, no, we're not trading you. And then the draft's going to go away, and then that's going to be it. There's going to be no more trade conversation.
Do you think there's a scenario where Deebo Samuel really doesn't want to get traded?
Oh, yeah. I think Deebo would like to stay. And here's the thing. If Deebo doesn't want to stay, then it's not then maybe that adds up, because it's not about money. It's not about usage. It's not about all those other things. Maybe it's personal. Maybe Deebo doesn't like playing for Kyle Shanahan. Maybe Deebo doesn't like who his future quarterback is going to be. That would be the only reasons that would really make sense for Deebo to want to go, because I would think this is the best place for Deebo is with Kyle Shanahan and just being completely featured in this offense, because he could go somewhere else and the usage could be completely different in a bad way for Deebo Samuel's career.
I think for Deebo Samuel to come out and request a trade, he really wants out. Like, it's gotten to that point, because this is a guy who has openly talked about his relationship with Kyle Shanahan. They are very open, that line of communication. They talk every day about anything and everything. So to have that type of respect for your coach, and regardless of that relationship, go out and say, I have requested a trade, you mean that.
BSE says Peacock is not a fan of agents. I just don't trust him. Little shadowy figures in the background. And here's the thing is, I care about 49ers fans who are the listeners of this podcast. Deebo's agent doesn't give a crap about 49ers fans. He cares about money, right? He cares about his money first. Deebo's money second. He cares about the 49ers third, and 49ers fans very, very last, right? So that's, and that's an agent's job. Croc, you've had an agent, right?
Yes.
That agent was like, Croc, you're flying all over the country because we're trying to get you signed, right? But you weren't
Correct.
a big money free agent, but it wasn't like you had your choice of whatever. And it's not to say that agents are a bad thing. Agents are a very good thing, and Deebo Samuel deserves to get paid, but it gets performative and everything gets pushed out there in public. And that's where it starts to get a little bit weird. And in the end, I mean, we're seeing it in the chat. We're seeing it all day on Twitter. Fans aren't happy with Deebo Samuel. I don't think that's a great way to go about it, because I don't think it's going to end up changing how much money Deebo Samuel makes if it's with the 49ers. Now, if they want to all max out money, it's all about money all the time, then Deebo's going to have to maybe go somewhere else, and maybe they could get traded. But I don't think they're going to be able to force the 49ers within a week to do that unless a team comes with something crazy. And go ahead.
Do you think that, and you brought up the fans and how they're kind of turned on them a little bit, right? A lot of fans. I'd say it's dang near 50-50 at this moment. Even some of my homies have been like, you don't need Deebo Samuel. And I'm like, all right, we'll see. But for someone like Deebo Samuel, who comes off to me a little emotional, right? And what I mean, like, I don't mean that in a bad way, but he just seems like a very emotional person. And when you already feel some type of way about the organization, it clearly, right? You scrub your account, like you are upset. And then the fans double down on that upsetness, and they're, the racist stuff, whatever, that, they're telling you they're not happy with you. You need to get on, you need to go. I could see someone like him being like, all right, like, y'all want me going? Like, I'm out, and really feel like that. The only thing I think can help this situation is just let a little bit of time pass and like, all right, let's calm down, everyone. Let's chill out. Let's get this deal done. Let's get him as close to what he wants as possible and go from there. But I don't, but the only issue is, if you are going to make a move, the draft is next week.
It's got to happen this week if there is going to be a move for Deebo Samuel. I still don't think it's going to happen, but a little bit more on that and what it could look like as it goes forward here with Deebo Samuel. And I want to talk about one team in particular, and shout out to the Jets fans that are in the chat right now that are trying to find out a little bit about Deebo Samuel. But first, I want to let the folks out there know about Shady Rays, an independent sunglasses company that gives you the features of a $200 pair of sunglasses for a fraction of the price. That means polarized lenses, well-constructed, durable frames, premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else is Shady Rays' insane protection program. Not only broken sunglasses, but lost sunglasses. And I know everybody out there has lost or broken their glasses before. You can find the protection that nobody else gives for Shady Rays. It's pretty unbelievable. And even better yet, 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays. And exclusively for our listeners, head over to shadyrays.com right now and use promo code LOCKEDON to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That's code LOCKEDON. One word, locked on, for their best deal of the season. 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses, backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews. So if Deebo Samuel does get traded, they've got odds on where his landing spot could be at betonline.net, your source, your number one source for all betting, stats, and sports information, as well as wagering. Colts, number one. Why, Croc? Why would the Colts be first-round pick?
Well, I think they got some second-round draft capital, maybe a future pick, and they have a big need at receiver. Huge need. All they have is Pittman. That's it. Campbell, if he comes back and he's okay, but you can't count on that. And they might be really trying to load up and go for it. That is a team that, they did trade for Matt Ryan.
Get those non-first round having asses out of here. I'm talking Packers. They're up there as well in the top 5. Eagles, Chiefs, Saints. They've all got 2 first-round picks, and especially those Jets is where I would put my money right now. More on that a little bit later. Find all the sports developments, league reviews, and news, including not only football and draft props, but basketball, playoffs, and the start of the Major League Baseball season. Get over to betonline.net today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action at BetOnline, where the game starts. Thanks, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day. Don't forget to check out Croc doing the Locked On NFL draft thing. And we have tons of draft coverage here on the Locked On Podcast Network, live all 3 days of the draft, as well as Odyssey and Locked On Network presenting the ultimate mock draft. Getting close to the end of that thing. Going to want to tune into the very last day for sure to find out who Croc and I select for the San Francisco 49ers at pick 61 in the ultimate mock draft. All right, Croc. It's funny that you mentioned that because that's the other thing I was thinking. Like, look, like they're trying to shake the 49ers into doing something, and then nothing happens before the draft. Deebo sticks around, and then they're going to sign a deal in the summer, and then everyone's going to be like, yeah, oh, yeah, never mind. We're good. We love Deebo. Deebo loves us. I can't wait. I'm going to go win a Super Bowl with the San Francisco 49ers, right? That's what's going to happen, and everyone's going to forget about it and hug and make up. That's the way I think it's going to end.
Hopefully. But what if the Jets come calling?
What if the Jets come calling?
Did you hear their GM today, Joe Douglas?
Yes, and I've got the quote exactly because I want to get it right. Joe Douglas was asked about specifically Deebo Samuel, not just trading for a wide receiver, but about Deebo Samuel during Joe Douglas is the Jets GM about during their media availability pre-draft. And he said, can't get into specifics for a player that's not on our current roster, but quote, if the right opportunity presents itself, we are going to be aggressive, end quote. So what is aggressive? We already know they had offered 35 and 38, and man, they got a lot of draft picks, and they got the cap room. 35 and 38 plus 69. That was the deal they offered for Tyreek Hill, correct?
Correct. 35, 38, 69.
Right.
Which I think is actually like, that's solid draft capital. I know what fans don't look at it like that. I was listening to a podcast and they were like, well, Tyreek Hill, they got a 1, a 2, and whatever else. And then I'm like, yeah, I mean, a 1 and a 2, but we're talking about pick 29, pick 51. Would you rather have pick 29, 51 or pick 35 and 38? I'd rather have 35 and 38 than 29 and 51, even though it sounds better with 29 because it's a first round pick, but it ain't better when you can have those dang near back-to-back picks right early round 2.
Right. I would take 35 and 38 as well over that.
Yeah.
But I still wouldn't take that for Deebo Samuel. I'd be saying you got to go 10, and I still want 38, and I still want to pick next year, a day 2 pick. So that would be the price for me. It would be a second rounder next year probably, and 10 and 38 this year. And it's looking like there's some folks in the chat that are on board with that with me. You got to go.
I'm not getting into the futuristic Brian Burns and all this. Like, no, this there won't be a player. I don't see a scenario where there's a player involved in this. Like,
I mean, there could be a player as a throw-in, but look, Brian Burns. I've seen a lot of that. Brian Burns and who's the other one? Brian Burns'
name keeps coming up.
Basically, so because Brian Burns is a stud, first of all. But here we go. Here's one.
But my coach, I was talking to one of my coaches on the phone. And he was like, "Man, what about Brian Burns? Like, can they trade?" And I'm like, "Where is this coming from? Like, Brian Burns is good. Are the Panthers just like, oh?"
He's great. So first of all, the Carolina Panthers aren't going to be offering Brian Burns. They're trying to build around Brian Burns. Plus, the 49ers can't afford to pay Brian Burns and Nick Bosa $60 million per year when their contracts are up, right? So Brian Burns is definitely something that's not going to happen. And I know he's a really good player, but it just doesn't fit for what the 49ers are looking for. The 49ers need big-time draft picks, and they need to be able to do a lot. The 49ers could maybe move down from 10 if they got 10. And so, yeah, it would take 10 and plus one of those second-round picks at least for the 49ers, I think, to do something. And they would need multiple swings at some draft picks to make sense. It would have to be an overpay. And look, and if there's Jets fans in here, I would love to hear from you in the chat. They would scoff at it, and they should. Like, and it's like, okay, then you don't get Deebo because we want to keep Deebo. That's the whole point. You've got to overpay for Deebo Samuel. It would have to be a pretty huge trade.
Let's say the Jets draft a receiver at 10. You know, we don't want to give up that pick, but we'll take a receiver instead of going to get Deebo. So you take, I don't know, Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. Do you like Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Denzel Mims, or whoever with Zach Wilson? Or do you like Elijah Moore, Deebo Samuel, and everyone else with Zach Wilson?
And they got Corey Davis too, so it's not like they're completely bare at wide receiver.
They should talk to a Jets fan, and they make it seem like, I mean, who do you have to throw the ball to?
Well,
Davis was very inconsistent.
To be honest with you, we wouldn't be talking that much about wide receiver with the Jets right now if it wasn't for them going after other wide receivers.
Yeah, that's true. They just gave Braxton Berrios some money.
Could take a wide receiver, but you wouldn't be like, oh, the Jets are the team because wide receiver is their biggest need. They've got other needs. They need a corner. They need a pass rusher, and I think
they don't need corner. They like Bryce. They like Bryce Hall. They just signed DJ Reed, $33 million. They just gave him $33 million.
Too much money, right?
I mean, but you know what I'm saying? Like those are their outside corners.
DJ Reed's a nickel, isn't he?
No, he's outside. He played outside for Seattle. That's what got him paid.
They're gonna get Sauce, dude. They're gonna get Thibodeau and Stingley. They're gonna get Sauce and Jermaine Johnson, something like that. I think that's why they're trying to trade those 2 seconds to get the receiver, because they don't want to spend 10 on a receiver. They want to go defense with those picks. Maybe even an offensive tackle. Who knows?
See, they're lucky I'm not doing negotiations. I'd probably take. I ain't gonna lie. I would probably take it. I would say 35, 38, 69, or like maybe I don't know, a late day or early day 3 pick, and give me like a 1 or a 2 next year. Like I would be fine with that.
If you're talking a 1 next year, along with 35 and 38 and 69, we might be talking, but you just got to step up from 35, 38.
But that would be aggressive, in my opinion.
Oh, and it has to be aggressive. That's kind of the point of all this for me.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't think he's going to get traded. If he did get traded, who do you take? Who do you like at 10? You take Garrett Wilson?
In the chat right now, we got Rick Torres, and he says Crocker has proved he isn't a good negotiator. Y'all can say that, but if Eric Crocker was GM, Jimmy wouldn't be here. And all the worries y'all have, we'd have an extra 3rd round pick right now. Right?
True.
I jumped on it because I knew it was a great deal.
But wait, Croc, the draft hasn't happened yet. Jimmy G is going to get traded on draft night. Deebo Samuel on like next Tuesday is going to have a new contract. You watch.
All right.
Maybe. We got to talk draft, Croc. Who are the prospects I want to see in the chat? Which prospects do you want to talk about? Who would you take at 10 if Deebo Samuel was traded to the Jets and you ended up with that pick? Or, somewhere between 10 and 15, 16, one of those Eagles, one of those Saints picks, maybe the Jets pick. What kind of players are you guys looking at there? And Croc and I have some prospects we want to get into next that the 49ers currently have draft picks that they could actually take if they don't trade Deebo Samuel. That coming up. But first, how about Built Bar, Croc? You know what? That's what I think. I think, what's his name? What's Deebo's agent's name? Tory something.
Tory Dandy or something like that.
Tory Dandy.
Something like that.
He needs to just sit down with the Built Bar and chill out and stop stirring up so much crap for his client. They're going to get paid. Deebo, just have yourself a peanut butter Built Bar. Feel good about it. Stay slim and trim.
I think he's more of a Built Bar puff type guy.
Yeah, Deebo might be a puffs guy. Yeah. The first ever protein-infused marshmallow, by the way. And most Built Bars contain only 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, only 4 grams of net carbs, and a whopping 17 grams of protein to make you feel satisfied. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has 240 plus calories, 30 grams of sugar, dozens of net carbs, and the peanut butter Built Bar is back. Croc loves himself some cookies and cream, himself some Built Bar puffs as well. There's tons of new flavors going up all the time at built.com. And oh yeah, they're all covered in 100% real chocolate, which really makes you feel like you are eating a treat and makes everything so delicious. So go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That is promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Jermaine Johnson, Tyler Linderbaum, Treylon Burks. Seen some good names in there for the 49ers to select if they did a deal. I think Linderbaum might get close enough to where the 49ers. What about that? We haven't talked a lot about Alex Mack. Alex Mack retires, or the 49ers don't know. I think Linderbaum, he's only 6'2", less than 300 pounds. He's only a fit for certain schemes. He starts to slip into round 2 a little bit. Niners go up from 61 and get their center.
Not strong, not a guy that has a really good anchor.
Yeah.
He is someone that fits a very specific scheme. He fits the 49ers scheme with his movement skills.
Go up and get him if he slips into round 2?
Yeah. Especially if you lose Alex Mack, then yeah, you definitely 100% have to really address it because I mean, who's your center? Now, I did post something earlier today about the Dallas Cowboys and how 7 of their last 8 first-round draft picks have all been to the Pro Bowl, and like a lot of them have been All Pro as well. And I keep hearing the philosophy that the Dallas Cowboys use is they take best player available no matter what. So we're all talking about, oh, you got to go center, you got to go guard, you got to go corner, you got to, and they're just like, we are taking the best player. And I think that's why when you look at the Dallas Cowboys roster, a lot of times it is loaded. Now, people might say, well, they don't win. And it's like, okay, well, maybe their coaches suck or whatever the case is. But in the sense of talent, like how comfortable, if you just take that Dallas Cowboy roster and actually like just change the jerseys, put 49er uniforms on all those guys last year, how much more confident would you be that the 49ers are a Super Bowl caliber team with the coaching staff?
There's a good chance the 49ers would have made the Super Bowl if that's the case, unless they ran into a team that then had Deebo Samuel on
it. Right. Right. But they draft very well. I say all that to say, we're talking about Linderbaum and trading up for a guy because center is a need, but I feel like if you see the best player that you have available on your board, trade up for him.
Yeah, and if Linderbaum happens to be that guy, then okay. But you're right. BPA is the way to go. And that's why the 49ers mid-round picks have been so good, because they're drafting really good football players, right? They're like, we love this guy. We love everything about this guy. Let's draft him. They need to take whatever their day 3 strategy is into round 1 and round 2, and I think they would be cooking.
Yeah.
All right, Croc. Tell us about Cordale Flott, one of your favorite day 3 prospects in this draft. Day 3, right? He's too skinny to be going round 2 or 3.
He is skinny. I'll say this, the analytical crowd, and they'll put all the numbers into this random database that I have no idea about, and it probably will make a whole lot of sense when they spit the numbers out, that there's never been a corner that is good, that's 6 feet tall, 6 feet or taller, and less than 180 pounds can't be good, right? So the success rate on that type of guy,
it's just never happened. Oh, I think we lost
he's
Croc.
very.
You lost me? Oh, you're back. No, you cut out for a second.
Oh yeah, I see. It says,
basically what you're saying is, if you're 6'2" and less than 180 pounds, there's never been a.
Oh, he's 6 foot.
Okay.
Yeah, he's 6 foot. But anyways, terrific coverage skills from inside and outside. He is a guy that played a lot of man coverage, because if you play for LSU, you are going to play man, regardless of where you line up. He is very comfortable in the slot. Is he Kwan Williams, who is super aggressive and throw guys off of him and go in and make tackles? I don't know about that. He's very slim. But just from a coverage skill standpoint, he's legit. So if you're talking about, 5th, 6th round, I think that's the kind of guy I would want to get later in the draft.
And I watched Cordale Flott. He's skinny, but he's not afraid to stick his nose in there. He'll tackle people. By the way, Cordale Flott out of LSU, a very skinny player. You might have visions of Rashard Robinson in your head if you're a 49ers fan, thinking about, okay, skinny cornerback, day 3 guy from
not
LSU.
as long, no. So my thing, and again, so there's 2 things here. One, Rashard Robinson actually could play, but he never reached as good as he could be because he just was so messed up here.
Yeah.
Right. Those aren't the issues that you're dealing with Flott, as far as I know. So, Flott wasn't kicked out of LSU and, had to, play half a season or whatever the heck Robinson's situation was. That was weird to take him 4th round anyways, when you think back on that. But, and actually Redmond, 49ers drafted him 3rd round in that draft, coming off of an ACL. He actually played for a long time. He still plays like nickel and stuff for the Packers.
Is he still playing?
Yeah, he has started playing. Yeah, he's been playing. Will Redmond. But anyways, Flott, he's not as long as Rashard Robinson, who once you're long like that, your movement skills start to get a little bit tougher and stuff like that. Like Flott, shorter arms, I believe, like not as ideal as you would like. But from a coverage skill standpoint, the guy that you're taking late, I think that would be a solid pick.
Yeah, I love that one.
Because he can play outside and inside.
Yes.
I feel like you'd be comfortable with him being able to turn and run with anybody. He did a lot of it at LSU. Matter of fact, to the point where when him and Stingley were true freshmen, I thought they were going to be the best tandem in college football moving forward.
I was excited when I saw Flott. When you told me about him, I was like, oh yeah, I love this dude. He plays, and just the way he plays, and yeah, he's definitely skinny. He might go, shorter armed, 6'1.5", 175. That is very skinny. He's sort of the cornerback version of Devontae Smith. And like he's so skinny that it's like, dude, just put some thigh pads in to make your legs look like they're actually bigger than they are. One of those. But he played, and he's really young. One of the youngest players in the draft, according to Matt Barrows, who in his article about players who have visited the 49ers, Cordale Flott is one of them. So the 49ers are in on Cordale Flott. He could be a nice fit. He won't turn 21 until the end of August. So right before the season starts. Really young player. And
maybe that's why he's so skinny. Because when I was 20, I was like 175 too.
I was a rail, but I wasn't like trying to lift 225 either. By the way, I saw your 7 reps of 225, Croc. Well done.
Yeah, I got to get back into it.
I wouldn't hit a single rep of 225. I got to be honest.
Oh.
I would need some time to get that 1 rep in. I would skip that at the combine for sure.
Yeah.
5th to 6th round is the range, according to Dane Brugler of The Athletic, of where Cordale Flott could go. And I would love that pick in that 5th to 6th round range. And the 49ers, I think, could go day 3 corner, although I think they have their outside corners pretty well figured out. Who else you been looking at that you like for the 49ers, Croc?
Oh, man, hold on. I got a whole Rolodex of guys here. All right. First guy I want to talk about here is Pierre Strong, running back out of South Dakota.
Who the 49ers have also had in, and who was in our mock draft of the 49ers. He has all kinds of speed, maybe the fastest running back in the draft, 4.37, taking 50-yarders to the house all day long at South Dakota State.
Right. Now, I don't want to put the Raheem Mostert speed on anyone. Like Raheem Mostert, very, very, very freakish and unique speed. But if you want something that is, I don't even want to say similar. That's hard. I mean, I hold Raheem Mostert's speed to such a high standard. But you want somebody that can fly. All right, that has good size, that can fly. He's about 5'10", 207. Man, he is a one-cut, get-upfield type guy. Now, he has some issues, and this is why I think that he's not going to fit every scheme, but he definitely can fit the 49ers scheme as a change of pace back. He can't stop his feet. Like, he's not one of these guys that can be patient. Like, oh, let me be patient and make a guy miss in space and do all that. He's not that. He is I'm going to read this moving offensive line, and once I see that crease, I have to put my foot in the ground and go, because he can't stop his feet and then make a move off of that. He struggles to kind of make guys miss in space. He runs a lot like what I saw early on from Raheem Mostert, where it was a guy where it's like, man, clearly he has speed. He can get around the edge, but man, can he make some guys miss? And he started to kind of add that to his game a little bit, even though, I mean, you'll never mistake him for just Barry Sanders or anything like that. But he got a little bit better at that. And I think Pierre Strong, when you watch him, he's one of those guys too. But he fits the 49ers. I don't think he's going to fit every system because he isn't a guy. Again, I don't see him really making guys miss. I don't really see him being able to be a patient back in more of a power scheme. It's a one cut and go. But he does that very well if that's what the 49ers are looking for.
Absolutely love it. Perfect fit for the 49ers, projected to go in the 5th round or so range, according to The Athletic. Another player the 49ers have brought in at running back, a couple more at running back, Jerome Ford out of Cincinnati, 4.45 speed, a little bigger, 210 pounds. Although Pierre Strong's not necessarily small. He's built pretty well for a guy who's got that 4.3 speed. And look, Kyle Shanahan doesn't want you dancing around. He wants you to get that speed going downhill as soon as you see that crease. And another running back, Ty Chandler out of North Carolina, is a player the 49ers have met with, 4.38 speed at the combine at 5'11", 204. So very similar sized and speeded guys there. Although, by the way, the 1.46 second 10-yard split for Ty Chandler. And you see a little bit of burst on tape. Ty Chandler. So I can see why he's someone the 49ers like. 6th to 7th round grade for him, according to The Athletic. But yeah, I've liked what I've seen from all those guys, and I think it's pretty clear the 49ers are sniffing around running backs, and we're going to see some speed added to that group on day 3. And I like it. Keep those running backs in day 3 where they belong. All right, we're out of time for the regular pod here, Croc. Do you want to stick around and get into the chat a little bit and do a little overtime?
Yeah, I got some more guys to talk about here. So let's do it.
More guys. We'll talk about more guys all next week as we prepare for the draft. It's going to be draft week next time we meet for this podcast. But let's get into a little bit more of the chat, some more of our sleeper draft picks for the 49ers. If you want to hear more of this pod and some of the overtime when we go live, you got to check out the YouTube channel. Thanks everybody for making Locked On 49ers your first listen. If you're live with us on YouTube, stick around in the chat. Croc and I will be back on the regular pod Monday right here, Locked On 49ers. Okay, Croc.
Yeah.
Real quick, I want to answer a couple questions here.
Let's do it.
Do you think the Niners will trade up or back from 61? That's easy for me. What do you think?
They will do one or the other, that's for sure, right? Like, I just don't see them staying at 61. But I'd say they're gonna move up, man. Like, they are aggressive. This is a much more aggressive front office than they're given credit for.
Oh, super aggressive. A couple of years ago, John Lynch traded every single draft pick the 49ers had originally. And I think they're absolutely going up. They are not going to sit on their hands for 60 picks and let everybody go off the board. I think they're going to go up and they're going to get somebody. Who's the player that falls close to them is the question. What position is that? Safety, I would say. I mean, the highest ranked player that they've really been connected to is Brisker out of Penn State. Could they go get him? Do they want to try to let him fall to them at 61? They've met with Cross out of Maryland. They've met with, I'm pretty sure I thought they had met with Petrie, Jalen Petrie, maybe not though. Dylan Parham, center out of offensive lineman out of Memphis, could play center, played tackles, played guard in college. Danny Gray's probably more of a day 3 or a third round guy, late third round guy, speedy wide receiver. So a lot of speed the 49ers have met with in the draft, but from 61, I think up is the way to go. A lot of extra picks, and I think they're going to utilize those to move upward. How about this one, Croc? We got a question about Drake Jackson. Can Croc explain what the heck is going on with Drake Jackson? He's all over the place.
I think Peacock can explain more than me. I haven't watched enough, but I know Peacock has some takes on him.
Croc, I'm glad you recognized that I was the guy to go to on this one. Drake Jackson is extremely one-dimensional, and that's his problem. But, man, he's got that bend. He's got that length and athleticism. He's exactly what you want a pass rusher to look like. I think he's going to be pretty darn good getting after the quarterback from day one. Problem is, one-trick pony. He's bending around the edge. He needs to show some power in his game to be able to be on the field as a run defender, and he needs to show some speed to power as a rusher and use those hands to have some other moves instead of just trying to run the arc all day. Nick Bonito is very similar, just trying to run the arc all day long. I would draft Jackson over Bonito because I think there's more size potential with Drake Jackson, and I think he has a better pass rush plan, uses his hands a little bit better as he gets the edge, and just a little bit more rare length and flexibility there for Drake Jackson. He could go anywhere. Yeah. I could even see him, just because of those traits, sneak into the end of the first round, or he could be there for the 49ers at 61. I have no idea where he's going to go.
Now, I wasn't watching Drake Jackson, but I was watching a tackle out of Washington State, and they were playing against USC. And sure enough, Drake Jackson popped up on that film, sack. I believe it was in the end zone, knocked the ball loose as well. Came off that edge, ran the hoop, as you said. He loves to run that hoop. Did a really good job with his hand swipe, dipped that shoulder, got to the quarterback, boom, sacked him, forced fumble in the end zone. So, yeah, he does have that. Again, I was not watching him, but I definitely noticed that play when watching the right tackle.
From Dr. Steve Brule here, Lance Zierlein and Greg Cosell are big on Brian Cook. How do you guys feel about him? We talked about him a few podcasts ago. I was not impressed. Did you watch more of Brian Cook yet? Because I liked about him that I bet, Croc, you do like about him. He's a former corner, and sometimes he'll get into this coverage technique, and he shows good technique. You can tell he was a former corner. But as a safety, he didn't jump out to me. And I was like, he's one of those players I was watching and was like, I kind of want to move on to somebody else. I don't really see it. So there's a couple of glimpses that I liked. He's got size for a box safety, but I just didn't see anything that stood out to me that I would want to draft him as high as some of these analysts like him. And maybe I was watching the wrong games. I don't know.
I only watched one game, and it was on YouTube. I was riding the assault bike, getting my calories in. So, and it was after the conversation you and I had about him. So I did go to kind of check on him, and I didn't see anything that jumped out to me very much. There was one play that was good. He made a play on the ball where they tried to run a wheel route with the running back. He got a phase, got his head around, knocked the ball away. But that was the only time that he did anything that was like relatively notable. But again, very small sample size what I've seen from him.
And it's weird that he used to play cornerback because he doesn't look nearly athletic enough to have played corner, but like on that play, he probably showed nice technique as a corner. So, maybe he shows more of that in some other games, and I just haven't seen it, but didn't see him really impact the game all that much. But it is nice to have a safety who, has those sort of skills, because that's usually the thing that safeties are lacking, is that ability to get dick to hip with a guy, right, Croc, and be in phase, knock the ball away.
I think that kind of reminds me a little bit of Adrian Colbert. Wasn't Colbert like he played a little bit of corner, but he was a safety and ran really fast, but he had changed schools or something like that. So Colbert had a little bit of that as well. I don't
Yeah.
think we kind of mistake him for being a cornerback at the NFL level.
No. Tarvarius Moore, too. Sort of different than Colbert. I don't know.
No, Moore got switched to corner in the NFL. I don't know what they were thinking.
He was all cover 4 in college. I remember that.
Yeah.
Hell of this, hell of that says, I'm obsessed with getting the 10th pick for Deebo and drafting Jordan Davis. I think that is an awful trade to turn do-it-all playmaking wide receiver into a nose tackle. I'm not feeling that, Croc.
I like the freakish athlete that Jordan Davis is, but nah.
Mm-mm. Nick says, this is something we've talked about before, Croc. I think Croc likes Brisker. I like Petrie. I think that's the answer there, right?
You can talk me into Petrie.
All right. Yes. I did it.
Because again, I'm looking at him like when I originally was talking about him, it's through the eyes of, well, he plays nickel. Then you start watching him. I already had watched him, but you start kind of piecing together his game. And you're like, oh, okay, some Jamal Adams to him. And, oh, man, what if you have a guy that can do some of those Jamal Adams things and has some of that Jamal Adams instincts around the line of scrimmage, but also, hey, he's twitched up. Good change of direction, good speed. He can cover a little bit better. Good instincts from that standpoint. Hell, I started to think about Javon Holland. And Javon Holland was a guy who played nickel, but then he was able to go and be a terrific safety for the Miami Dolphins as a rookie. So you start looking through him, different lens, and it's like, I might lean Petrie.
Did you watch Brisker against Ohio State yet?
Not yet.
Okay, that was the one that worried me because Brisker's got a lot, and the 49ers were at his pro day. And apparently he threw down a 4.43 at his pro day, so he actually improved on his combine time and threw down a ton of reps. And he's one of those guys that I could see the 49ers fall in love with. They put the gold helmet next to his name, right? He's like a team leader, a captain, really smart player. He's just got the prototype.
You know what?
Speed. So I could see the 49ers really loving Brisker.
I'm going to go Petrie, and this is why. Because my guy who has never steered me wrong yet, he's been raving about Petrie. I forgot all about that.
Well, who's your guy? Shout out here on Locked On 49ers.
Oh, man, my guy, John Griffin. He was a running back when I was with the New York Jets. He was a running back there. And after his playing career, he played a few years in the league. He ended up going into being a strength and conditioning coach. So he was at Baylor. He was at South Carolina. Now he's with the LA Rams. But he always hits me up about these prospects. Croc, you got to look into this guy named Deebo Samuel. All right, I will. Oh, well, what do you know? Deebo Samuel's hella good. Croc, you got to look into this guy named J.C. Horn. Everybody's looking at the other corner. They like the Mukamura guy or Izzy. They like him. But I'm telling you, J.C. Horn is the guy, and he gives me a whole breakdown and rundown of these guys. And sure enough, J.C. Jackson was the guy, first corner taken in that class when people weren't really talking about him to the extent before the draft process. And then Croc, Jalen Petrie. I'm telling you, Croc, Petrie, he could not stop raving about him. And every time somebody said anything about him or post, he made sure to send it to me in the DMs. Like, he loves Petrie. So I forgot about that. But if my guy says it, he hasn't steered me wrong yet. He also told me about Kinlaw. He hasn't steered me wrong yet.
He told you that Kinlaw was a bad pick?
Well, no, he didn't say it was a bad pick, but there wasn't the raving like he was with some of the other guys that he brought to me. I knew he was at South Carolina, so I asked him about Kinlaw, and there were just some concerns and talked about some ways to get the most out of him. But yeah.
By the way, was he the guy that was? Because I remember you had a guy that was big on Brian Edwards out of South Carolina.
Yeah.
Okay. Another one of his guys. Okay.
Yeah, he loved Brian Edwards. Brian Edwards, I feel like hasn't gotten a fair shake yet. I don't know. It's really weird. Like I'll be watching the Raiders game, and it's like they'll target him 2 times, and those 2 times will be like 2 catches, 50 yards, touchdown. Like it's like get the ball more.
Exactly. Yeah, I see a lot of that. Here's another name real quick. I haven't really even watched him much, but local Central California guy from Fresno State. And Ben Albright said, little birdie tells me defensive lineman Kevin Atkins, a potential Broncos draft target, because Ben Albright does Broncos radio, in Denver, said had a really good private workout with an NFC West team today. This was, a couple weeks ago, but Kevin Atkins, defensive lineman from Fresno State, kind of get Kevin Givens vibes from him, maybe a late round pick type of a guy. So that's a name to remember as well. And I'm sure there's some listeners out there that are very familiar with the Fresno State football program. Let's see. We got some other names here. Wide receiver. Yeah, wide receiver at 61. That's a sneaky need, even without Deebo. That was already, I think, something
We've been saying that. And a lot of people push back on it. We're like, dude, I mean, I would. Well, that was me not being as high on Juwan Jennings as it seems the 49ers are. So I like Juwan Jennings as a wide receiver 4.
Yep, I'm with you. Yep.
Not absolutely. Your starting, you got 3 receivers out there and he's one of them. Like, that's not the ideal situation for me. Mm-hmm. I like him, but wide receiver 4. So I'm like, can you get more explosive at that position, right? Like, think about Dallas Cowboys. I mean, their 3 receivers were Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup. Like, to me, like, I like that 3. 49ers is like Deebo Samuel, Ayuk, Jennings. It's like, it's cool.
Yeah. And if nothing else, there's room for another guy to compete in there that's got a different skill set, a downfield guy. You've got a big-armed quarterback. Give me speed. Give me some catch radius. Give me that type of player that the 49ers really don't have, because Jennings is still kind of like a borderline tight end in the way he's used too. They don't want to tell him he's a tight end, but he's a tight end, kind of like Deebo. They don't want to tell him he's running back. He's used a running back half the time. So when you've got your top 3 wide receivers, one of them's playing one position half the time, the other guy's playing another position half the time. You got Brandon Ayuk is the only full-time wide receiver.
Well, if you want somebody that can fly, I think everybody has heard this name, Tyquan Thornton out of Baylor. All right. But to me, when I watched him, I was a little surprised because he isn't just speed, and he is fast. Like, he plays as fast as his 4-yard time. But I thought he had a little bit more twitch than I was expecting to see. Clearly, he can use work at the top of his routes, but he's so fast, defenders are still threatened by his over-the-top speed. He does a really good job of creating short area separation, turn the defensive back around at the line of scrimmage on the slant route. I thought in the red zone, he caught multiple red zone touchdowns in one game against, I believe it was TCU, where it's like, well, I can see him. I mean, how do you create so much separation in such a short area? And he's a guy, and he's a good contested catch guy. He has like these small hands, but he goes up and gets it. He's slim, 6'2", 180 pounds, but he goes up and gets it, is not afraid of the contested catches or with bodies around him. So I think he has a better overall game than people are giving him credit for. That's a guy I really like. If you're talking about 4th round, you're sitting there 4th round and he's on the board, wouldn't be mad at all at that pick. Really 3rd round, I would take. I mean, if I'm the 49ers, I want to bring a different dynamic skill set to this team and not somebody that's just like Travis Benjamin. Like, that's a guy I would go after.
I think it was Marcus Mosher, our colleague, the host of Locked On Cowboys, who had a great stat yesterday that he tweeted out talking about wide receivers. And a lot of people talk about, oh man, there's so many good wide receivers. You can find a wide receiver every year after the first round. But after about pick 75, that dries up quickly. And there is a very, very low hit rate on impact wide receivers in the NFL after pick 75, even though there's a lot of guys in the second round that go. And so the 49ers only have 1 pick in the top 65 or top 75 picks. So if you're trying to find someone who's going to be a wide receiver 3 or better and potentially could even develop into a starter, and you don't know what's going on with the Deebo Samuel thing, if you're the 49ers, I think 61 is the time to do it. And there's going to be probably a pretty good player there or within the reach if you wanted to even trade up for a guy. And I see this message in the chat here. Watson, Pickens, Pierce, Moore. I think Pierce will be there at 61, and he's the most likely to be there at 61, but that's the type of player you're looking at. You want to be in that group. I think if you wait, and maybe someone like Gray, who's a really fast wide receiver, late round 3, pick 105, something like that. I could see it. He's got a little John Taylor to him. He's got those long strides, and he breaks all these long runs. And so he gives you a little after the catch that Shanahan would like, and he's got downfield speed as well. So I can see Shanahan liking him, but it's just so much harder to find a really impactful wide receiver after pick 75, even though there's so many every year coming in round 1, round 2 that are hitting. And even that hit rate's not perfect. There's teams passing on DK Metcalf and drafting Arcega-Whiteside and Daniel Isabella or Alex. What was Isabella? I don't even remember. Isabella's
Andy Isabella.
Andy Isabella. Thank you.
Pierce. Pierce is a guy who the more I think about him and what I feel like he could be, and obviously I was at the Senior Bowl, I watched him all week. That's a guy I like even more. You know, we're talking about a guy who I was surprised. I tweeted this out like, man, he wasn't one of my focus players coming here, but he showed much more twitch than what I was expecting. And then you see his ability to consistently run past guys. Now, when he was running by guys at the Senior Bowl, I wasn't looking at it through the eye lens of, hey, this is a guy that's going to run an unofficial 4.33 and 4.41. But I was like, oh, man, and the 4.41 was his official time. But I'm like, man, he is getting behind guys. And you watch what he did at Cincinnati, being able to make the contested catches. I think, ideally, if you pair him with Brandon Ayuk and he's in the slot, I mean, you are talking Cooper. Okay, before this season, right? Like what Cooper Kupp was. I don't want to put on him 1,900 yards.
Easy, Croc.
Right. I don't want to put 1,900 yards on him. But I'm just saying, like, and I'm not saying this just because they're both white dudes, but just in the sense of like what he looked like he could potentially be at the NFL level. Not 1,900 yard Cooper Kupp, but like whatever you saw from Cooper Kupp early on, where it's like, hey, 800 yard guy, 900 yard guy, could be 1,000 yard guy. Like he can legit be that in an offense, and again, still be able to win vertically. And he's terrific with the contested catches. So I really like Pierce. That's a guy at 61, and it's tough, man. 49ers have one pick right now in that range, but like I would not mind taking him at all.
Do we put any stock into Joe Staley training and pushing Nebraska center Cam Jurgens, according to Matt Mayoko?
Well, they wanted
the 49ers lean on people they know and getting those evaluations, and they've leaned heavily on certain coaching staffs, Arizona State and South Carolina, and I'm sure, and they try to get Joe Staley to come be a coach for them. So I'm sure they put some stock into it. I don't think it's like, oh my God, they are for sure going to draft Cam Jurgens. And the other thing about Cam Jurgens, it's really hard because I've seen some analysts have him as a top 50 guy, and some analysts have him as a day 3 guy. So I don't know where he's going to go. I probably wouldn't take him at 61. I like him. He doesn't blow me away though. But 93, 105, I think that would make sense. Cam Jurgens.
Between him, Donovan West too. He's a guy whose name is kind of popular around 49er Twitter out of Arizona State. And I watched him, and here just some of my notes. Good anchor. Does he have the power to move guys? So that was a question for me. I didn't necessarily see like the strength that I would ideally see maybe knock guys back, but he did a good job of reaching guys at the second level. I think his movement were solid, good enough for to be a 49er type guy. Again, I kind of followed up here. Doesn't move guys, but doesn't get moved back either. So it's like he's not going to be somebody who's going to fire out the ball and knock guys back, but also his anchor is good enough to where like you don't just blow him up to get to the quarterback. And I thought he stayed on his block solid, but you could see at some point a little bit of balance issues and things like that. So I don't know if I'm quite as high like to the extent of what 49ers fans have been like, Donovan West, you got to go him. But I do think, again, if you're talking about early day 3, he's a guy who I think is solid. Or late day 2.
Yeah. Late round 3, round 4-ish. I think that's perfect for Cam Jurgens. And if someone takes him earlier, so be it. They got themselves, maybe a starting center.
So if you were to say, all right, it's draft day, the 49ers go, they go Alec Pierce at 61, and then at some point in the 3rd round, they go a combination of Donovan West or Cam Jurgens. Would you be good with that?
Yeah.
Or would you be like, man, they missed out on?
Well, it would depend. That I wouldn't be super excited by that draft. I think it'd be solid. Depends on who else they would get in the 3rd round along with their center. But I'd be okay with Cam Jurgens there. And I think it's the right range for Jurgens. I think it's the right range for Pierce. But I feel like I'd be kind of greedy as it comes to the draft and hoping for a little bit more, hoping, something really great falls to you at 61, or maybe move up to just make sure you go get your guy. And I would hope that, say, the Niners could get somebody else at 61, then still have Pierce on the board at 93 within range, and still have Jurgens on the board at 105 or 134, something like that. Then it'd be like, okay, now we're talking about, sort of an A draft for what the 49ers have without a first rounder. So let me ask you this, because what do the 49ers do at safety if they go, say, wide receiver, offensive line, maybe end up with a pass rusher, a running back, or something else? They do something else on day 2. or at least with the first 2 picks. They're sitting. So 105, they haven't drafted a safety yet. Maybe even in the 4th round, haven't drafted a safety yet. Do you have any guys that you like there that could be someone that they could compete with Odom and Hufanga for that starting strong safety job, or maybe a nickel or sort of a hybrid player?
Yeah, I think it's tough because I think right now the 49ers, they have bodies at the safety position, but they're probably looking for that guy. But if you do say, man, I couldn't pass on Alec Pierce, I couldn't pass on Jurgens or Donovan West or whatever, and maybe there's someone else you like, and man, 5th round, we're sitting here and we still haven't drafted a safety, but we want depth there. We want a guy that can potentially come in and play. Well, Florida A&M has a safety, and his name is Marquise Bell. Big guy, 6'2", 212 pounds, ran up 4.46. I believe that was at the combine too. 36.5-inch vertical leap. So clearly super athletic. He is like a Tart clone. Like however you think, like, man, Tart's usage and stuff like that. Like he is that. He plays around the box. He's flying around. He's hitting guys. Coverage is solid. His ability to cover, especially like underneath, drop into zones and areas, things like that. They line him up sometimes near line of scrimmage. Down there, kind of like a linebacker. I mean, he's not like he's a safety, but he played kind of tight there and make plays. Like he was a guy where I'm like, man, even if he doesn't play right away, somebody with this kind of size, speed, athleticism, you're thinking special teams as well, and he'll do something for your team. But I think he's somebody that is going to be slept on because he is coming from, I believe that's the HBCU. So, he's not at a Power 5 or anything like that, but he's someone who potentially is going to go later. But if he were at, let's say, I don't know, Ohio State, I think people would be talking about him a lot more.
Yeah, he caught my eye a little bit at the combine. I went back and watched him some more. And once he's moving, he gets there. I worry about his lateral agility. I think he could be had in coverage.
Yeah.
Because of that, because he's so long-limbed. And I think that's one place that Tart really has him beat. I mean, remember Tart put on a show in workouts. Tart was kind of freakish at 6'2", 220 and like 4'4", right? Like he had some crazy athleticism for, out of Samford, small school guy.
Tart, that draft pick, first of all, I mean, you draft a guy 2nd round out of Samford.
And his name's Tart, and people are like, what the hell did the 49ers just do? Who is this guy? I mean, that's what I love about that pick, and things happen, and that was pretty early. People thought, oh, this is maybe a 3rd or 4th round pick. Watch out for a sleeper. Niners drafted him in round 2, right? It was like, what? Jaquiski Tart? Who is this guy? And so I loved the reactions to that pick because a lot of people who were, casual fans and weren't really following the draft a lot, they didn't know who the heck this guy was or even that school existed.
Yeah, I like the Tart pick. I mean, big, but even just looking back on his time with the 49ers, I think he did a lot of really good things. And most of the time, not out of position. I remember watching his film and just being like, gosh, it's kind of boring. But it was boring because it was like, well, he's always in like kind of like the right position. It's like he always just does his job. So like that was kind of cool to take note of.
Yeah. He and maybe that's it. And as Nick pointed out here in the chat, basically you draft a safety at 61 or 93, or you call Tart and you say, hey, just kidding, come back and play for us.
Right. And it won't count against your like comp picks.
Yeah. And I'm kind of surprised that the New York Jets recently just signed a former 49ers safety, Marcel Harris, but not Tart. I thought Tart to the Jets would have been a perfect
linebacker.
I'm sorry, linebacker. I wonder if they signed him linebacker or safety.
I don't know.
I've seen this.
I like Marcel Harris. I like Mario. I think I like Harris more than most people.
I think there is potential, and I've seen. I think it might have been on Twitter, and I don't have it anymore in front of me. Let's see if I can find it. But I've thrown this out there before. This is before the Deebo stuff, talking about, hey, I wonder if the Niners feel like they've got a lot of linebackers right now, and they would send Dre Greenlaw maybe to the Jets, and I think it's something that would make sense. But what if the 49ers packaged Greenlaw with Deebo to try to get that extra big pick from the Jets, right? The Jets are like, oh, we can't go 10 plus whatever and a future first. They're like, okay, we'll go Dre Greenlaw too with Deebo Samuel. You're going to give us 10 plus, a 35 plus, some other premium pick or something like that, or maybe, another player here and there. I wonder if that could be part of it, just to make them feel better about giving the 49ers something massive for Deebo.
Yeah, I don't know how much I value just throwing in Greenlaw. I think I don't know how much he's going to move the needle in the sense of like, oh, we're going to give you this extra couple picks or this extra pick because you have Greenlaw. Like, if it was just a straight up trade for Greenlaw, like, what's he worth? A 6th-round pick?
Oh, no. The 49ers, I think, could get a 4th for Greenlaw.
I think so. I don't know. I feel like, I mean, what do
he's
linebackers go for in trades?
He's a starting linebacker that's familiar with the scheme. He's played well, young players.
Yeah, but whether you have him or you have Azeez Al-Shaair, like, like when I'm watching the games, I don't be like, oh man, I'm missing Dre Greenlaw, like, because Azeez is out there. And if Azeez isn't in there, it's like, oh man, I'm missing his, Greenlaw's out there. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're solid starters. And they're guys that will have 8-year careers or more. Right. But I don't know if they move the needle in the sense of, oh, I'm going to trade for this and it's going to net me like, oh, a 4th-round pick or something like that. I'm not quite sure. But you never know. 49ers traded a 4th-round pick for Capri Bibbs. So
they were playing fast and loose there for a while with some like, what are you doing? Just wasting picks and trading up for guys they didn't have to trade up for. There was
like they traded a 4th for Capri Bibbs and then used a 4th to draft Joe Williams.
Yeah. Some rookie mistakes early on in the front office for the 49ers. Very weird. Some learning moments for Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch when they took over this roster, but they figured out a lot, and the 49ers have a pretty darn good roster. They have some picks to help improve that roster coming up next week, Croc. We're less than a week away now from the start of the first round of the NFL draft. Will Deebo Samuel be traded before then? I lean toward no, but we will have all of it covered for you as we move along towards the NFL draft, as we move along post-draft as well. And, of course, we're going to break down every single player that is selected by the San Francisco 49ers.
Wait, how are we going to do this? I'm going to be in Dallas.
I don't know, Croc. We'll figure it out. You're going to be in some fancy studio, right?
Yeah.
We'll be able to. We'll do it. No problem.
All right.
I'm going to be doing some live stuff for the network as well. So that's going to be difficult because you're going to be passing it off to me, I think, one of those days. We're going to have to figure out exactly what's going on there. We don't know the exact, or at least I don't. I know Croc's going to be on the air a lot live during the draft, and you're definitely going to want to check out
the whole draft. Like I'm Mel Kiper or something.
Crocky Kiper.
Crocky. Yeah.
Can't wait for the first pick that's made that you're like, dang it, I haven't watched that guy yet.
I know, right? Oh man, I know. I gotta get some notes,
prospects, and have them all down.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's gonna be fun. I can't wait to watch live. Let's see here. We got some breaking news. Let's see what this is. Damon Bruce just reported, per a close source, he was told the 49ers told Deebo they'll give him an extension when they're good and ready.
Huh?
I don't know if they would. That doesn't sound like something that they would have said to Deebo Samuel. If they told him that, I could see him being upset. But Deebo Samuel already told us his voice on that Instagram live that he hasn't gotten an offer, a contract offer. So I believe that he didn't get an offer, and I'll believe, I'm sure Damon has a good source, but I'll believe the best source, which is Deebo Samuel himself. He said, I haven't even gotten an offer yet. So yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I'm on the tweet deck with my 49er stuff at. I don't see anything too crazy right now.
Yeah, there's no breaking.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing anything breaking about that. But yeah, no, that checks out. I mean, that's exactly what Deebo Samuel said himself. So I believe it. The 49ers haven't made an offer. So maybe that's what this is all about, is they're just trying to wake up the 49ers and get that offer made. The 49ers need to wait until they trade Jimmy Garoppolo. Will that happen next week? Maybe. Then the ball's rolling. Then Deebo's signed. Everybody's happy. And the wide back is back for 2022. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks for making us your first listen. Appreciate all of you that joined us live. And we will keep doing some lives before the draft. I'm going to have my final mock draft coming up next week. I guess I'll probably drop that on Wednesday would be a good day. We'll have to figure out the traveling, figure out what Croc's got going on when he's doing the draft studio at Locked On in Dallas. But appreciate all of you. Croc and I back Monday right here, Sunday evening. Locked On 49ers.